Hey everyone, welcome to Mike's Movie Madness, the channel where we talk about all the things in movies and TV that we're madly in love with. And this is the very first episode of the weekly roundup, where I'm just going to take a couple of news topics that dropped during the week and just give you my quick thoughts and opinions on them. And then in the second part of this episode, I'm going to talk about a movie and TV show that I recently watched. It could be new, could be old, just depends on what I watched, and give a quick review. And for the movie, it'll be spoiler free. For the TV show, it'll probably be spoiler filled, only because TV, you should be able to catch up on TV quicker than you can movies, and movies have different release windows, all that stuff. So just to make it simple, movies spoiler free, TV shows spoiler filled. So let's get started with a couple of topics that I picked out, and they're not two great topics. I mean, one is not. It just depends on your opinion on certain things. But let's see. First up, we have the Star Wars movie loses another writer, and this one is the potential Rey movie, which was going to be set with Rey, Daisy Ridley, played by Daisy Ridley, returning to the role, and it was going to be about her starting a new Jedi Academy, and they had lined up a very good writer in Stephen Knight. For those of you who do not know who Stephen Knight is, he is most well known for Peaky Blinders, and he created that show and showran it. He's currently working on the movie version of it, and he's also done a handful of other things. He's very well respected in the UK. A lot of American audiences probably don't know him that well because, like I said, he's mostly in the UK, but he did a movie with Tom Hardy a few years ago called Locke, which was an experimental film set in real time in a car, and Tom Hardy was essentially just the only actor in the movie, aside from voice roles from other actors, and he was talking to people in the car. Very, very well done movie. I watched it on one of the streaming services. I can't remember which one, but I thought it was very, very well done. And he is like I said, a very, very well respected writer. And this is a big blow, and what is even worse about it is just a few months ago in April, he was talking about how it was going well, and it was at Star Wars Celebration. Oh no, sorry, the film was announced at Star Wars Celebration, and he had been interviewed about it, and he said that the process was going well. It's like, I can tell you I'm doing it, it's going well, but yes, I'm getting into the universe, and it's a wonderful universe. I love it, and it's good people. Again, when you get to that level, you find that people who are there for a reason. Now, like I said, it sounds like he was very much on board with this project just back in April, and so whatever happened suddenly. Probably been happening for a while behind the scenes, and this is another blow to the Kathleen Kennedy era of Lucasfilm, where she doesn't seem to have a clear vision with her creatives before they put pen to paper, or before they even shoot a single frame of the movie. And it's getting to the point where something needs to be done by Bob Iger at Disney, because it's gonna tarnish the reputation of Lucasfilm, and it's gonna not inspire much want and need for the filmmakers to want to work over there, because it's like, yeah, I can sign on to a project, but then in like 2 weeks or 6 months down the line, something happens where she changes her mind. She has a film of mine doesn't, or a film of theirs doesn't come out as well received, and she just changes direction. So, and Kathleen Kennedy on paper is a very, very well established producer. She, Steven Spielberg calls her the greatest producer of all time, and when you look at her resume, yeah, she is a very, very good producer. So it's a wonder why she can't, as a studio head, lock in a significant story before and like, have a game plan with her creatives before they start shooting. So I just wonder what's going on behind the scenes that is creating such a dysfunctional studio, because again, like, I want to see Star Wars on the big screen. Star Wars is meant for the big screen. Their Disney Plus shows haven't had the best track record. You have Mandalorian season 1 and 2 and Andor as the big hits for the critical and commercial, and something that actually united most of the fan base, which at this point is just a tug of war of ideologies, really. So it's like, what uh what can she do to unite the fandom? And going back to Rey, which was, the sequel trilogy, is a very, very divisive set of films. Like, I personally like the first two of the sequel trilogy. Yes, I'm in the minority when it comes to The Last Jedi, because a lot of people seem to not like that and continually go on about how it's the worst Star Wars movie since the prequels. Actually, some people say it's worse than the prequels. I don't believe that at all, but that's just my personal opinion. Film subjective, whatever. But I hated the Rise of Skywalker. I thought that movie was just a disservice to fans. It was clear that her direction for J.J. Abrams was to write the ship that Rian Johnson unfortunately had the blame put on him for creating such this almost divergence in the force, if you will. And I feel like he was tasked with correcting a lot of the things that, in my honest opinion, J.J. Abrams is the fault of creating a lot of these plot holes that never came to fruition. But we're not. I'm trying. Okay, let me back up a little bit and break away from the Rise of Skywalker, because I can probably go on an hour tirade about why it's a bad movie. But let's just get back on topic to the Rey movie. So there could be more to this than just, Kathleen Kennedy once again losing a creative. There could be a change in direction behind the scenes that, Daisy Ridley is apparently has been quoted as getting to, she was on the Happy Sad Confused podcast with Josh Horowitz, and she said that, she's very on board with, or not on board, she's very proactive in the development of this movie. So it sounds like she's taking a more producer role, which she's probably earned, because like I said, she was the star of the sequel trilogy. Whether or not you liked her performance, that's a whole different thing. Like, the movie still made money, and she, even though she hasn't had the best career post Star Wars, like, she's still a pretty well respected actress in the field. And I feel that kind of garners her a little bit more negotiating power than when she originally had when she was first cast. So maybe whatever Stephen Knight was coming up with just didn't align with what Daisy Ridley and the director, who is still attached, what is her name? Let me look that up. Shareem Obaid Chinoy. I'm sorry if I butchered that. She's still attached to direct the movie. So as far as I know, like, that could change in the next few months too. Who knows? But maybe they just had a different take on where they wanted the story to go, and Stephen Knight couldn't achieve that. So it's as simple as that. It could be as simple as that, I should say. Whatever your thoughts on that, leave them, drop a comment down below. Like, I know a lot of people are very much on the hate train of Kathleen Kennedy, and I'm sort of in the middle of that. Like, I don't hate Kathleen Kennedy, but I do recognize that her indecisiveness and reactionary response to certain things has been a detriment to Star Wars. So, let's hope that if she can recognize a lot of these patterns in herself and correct them, or she just hands the reins over to somebody else who is more steadfast in their both planning and their commitment to the filmmakers, like, not letting any outside noise influence their thoughts. So yeah, so let's move on to the next subject, and that is the Greta Gerwig situation going on at Netflix. So Greta Gerwig is most well known for recently directing Barbie, which grossed over $1 billion last year, Warner Brothers' biggest movie of the year, and got a lot of Oscar attention. But she's been an independent filmmaker for a few years now. She's a writing collaborator with her partner. Why am I blanking on his name? I know his name. I like his movies. But yeah, she's we'll get back to to that afterwards. But yeah, she's very well established in the independent world, and Barbie was like her first big blockbuster hit. And so it was, when she announced what her next project was going to be, a lot of people were kind of scratching their heads like, really, this? And it was Narnia, the Chronicles of Narnia. And she's going to start off with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. These movies were adapted way back when every young adult novel was getting adapted after the Harry Potter craze. And I never saw the movies. I did read the books in elementary school, so I'm very well aware of the property. I read most of the books, I should say, not all of them. But when she was attached, it seemed like an odd choice, but two, an interesting choice, because she's a very, very well respected filmmaker, and I think a lot of people sleep on her talents, because, like I said, Barbie was her first commercial success. Like, she had critical successes with Lady Bird prior, and Frances Ha, which I believe was either her directorial debut or her writing debut. I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember that part. But the fact that she's tackling this source material is interesting, to say the least. And I'm confident that it's going to be good. But one of the things that she's not so confident on is whether or not it's going to get a theatrical release. And that's due to the fact that it's being produced and being produced by Netflix. And Netflix, of course, has a horrible track record when it comes to theatrically releasing their movies. Like, they release a handful here and there if they think that they can get some Oscar attention. They'll do the limited release, and they experimented with a full, almost a partial theatrical window with the Knives Out sequel, Glass Onion, which I saw in theaters, and I was so glad I saw it in theaters. But it was only a 2-week engagement, and you had to be lucky enough for it to be playing in the theater near you. So it sounds like Greta Gerwig and other filmmakers as well are pushing back against the Netflix model, because it just doesn't make sense anymore at this point. And this article comes to us from Slash Film, and essentially, and this is where the hope sparks, really. IMAX and Netflix, they're in preliminary discussions to shoot the Chronicles of Narnia in IMAX and release the movie in IMAX screens, which I believe I've heard that they have at least over 2,000 screens, and only a handful of like true IMAX scale films. So it'll be very interesting to see what they're able to come to terms with, if it's just going to be an exclusive IMAX release, or if they're going to go full scale theatrical non-IMAX run too, and other large format screens like Cinemark XD, Dolby Prime, I think Dolby Prime at AMC, anything of that nature. So, and like I said, a lot of other filmmakers and movie stars are pushing back against the Netflix model as well. Like Margot Robbie just recently came out and said that she's probably going to move her potential film that she was going to make with Netflix over to Warner Brothers and take the cut in the budget, because Warner Brothers is committed to a theatrical release where Netflix isn't. And right now, Margot Robbie has a lot more pull in the industry than she did before because of Barbie as well. You know, so if she can kind of pull the tide that filmmakers decide they don't want to make movies at Netflix. Daniel Craig, who is the star of the Knives Out franchise, he said too, the model is fucked at Netflix. It's very much so. It's like when Top Gun came out during like a year after the pandemic, like really started kind of we started easing out of the pandemic. It was one of the first big movies that brought people back to the movie theaters, and it stayed in theaters for its full. I think it even exceeded the was it 90-day theatrical window? I can't remember, or 120-day theatrical window. I don't remember what the old window was. I know they shortened it over the past few years, and they've shortened it even more during the pandemic. But when it went its entire almost year in the theaters up until I believe the Oscars, I remember seeing that movie. Like, I was surprised at how long it stayed in theaters. When it finally went over to Paramount Plus, where it's streaming home, it ended up having a surge. Paramount Plus ended up having a surge in subscriptions, and you see this all the time. You see it in Disney Plus right now when with Deadpool and Wolverine about to hit the Disney Plus streaming service. They're gonna see a surge in subscriptions. Like a theatrical run, even if it's 60 to 90 days, if the movie's a success, now that's gonna be the caveat, because I know a lot of people are gonna try to pick at that. If the movie is a success, a theatrical success, and it goes to a streaming service, it ends up being better overall for the film on the streaming service, and it attracts subscribers. And that's what most streaming services, all they care about. They don't care about view count, even though they always like to boast that, this property had X amount of minutes viewed overall, and they really don't care about view count. That's just a bragging rights kind of thing. They care about subscriptions. They care about getting new subscriptions. They don't really care about keeping subscribers. They care about gaining new subscribers. But for Netflix, there is a plateau. There is a point where they are going to reach that maximum of subscribers, because there's only so many people in the world that can have Netflix. And once they hit that plateau, no matter how successful they believe they are in the amount of subscribers they have, once they hit that plateau, the money will stop rolling in, and they have to start looking at other avenues to be able to turn a profit. And one of the ways to do that is they're already experimenting with ad-supported tiers, and actual ad revenue. But another good way to do that is to put your movies in theaters. Yes, you have to pay a little bit more because you have to pay for marketing and all that stuff. You have to send the stars out. That is an added cost to a budget, and it can inflate the budget depending on how big the movie is. But in the end, even if they make, say, if they decide to make a movie for $150 million and they put a $100 million marketing budget in there, so that makes the movie $250 million budget overall. Even if it isn't a success, like if it makes just the production and marketing budget back, guess how much money it would have made if it was just direct to streaming? $0. It would have made nothing. So even if they made $250 million on a movie that cost $250 million, that's still $250 million. Like, everything is a gamble in this industry. The movies, TV shows, everything. To just leave money on the table because you do not want to take a chance on putting a movie in theaters, or because you don't believe in the theatrical experience, that's silly. And I think more filmmakers and stars are going to rethink signing with Netflix, unless it's a TV show, because obviously a TV show is structured a little bit differently. The expectations are a little bit different, but I think some television producers who go to Netflix will try to push on, instead of a binge model, maybe a partial weekly release, or it's like what they do with Arcane, like every week it's 3 episodes, something like that, to help build viewership as well, because we see that with Disney Plus. When Disney Plus has a successful show, the viewer count goes up week to week. So there's just a lot of things that Netflix needs to reevaluate, and I think this is one of them, and I hope it changes, because I want to see all these movies in theaters, even the Chronicles of Narnia. So now we're going to move on to a movie review, and the first movie we're going to review is Anora. Well, the only movie we're going to review, not the first movie. Anora. This is a movie starring Mikey Madison, whom some of you might remember from Scream 5. She played Amber Freeman, and it's written and directed by Sean Baker. And for those of you who do not know who Sean Baker is, he is a wonderful filmmaker who's made movies like Tangerine and The Florida Project, and he's a very experimental filmmaker. Tangerine was most notable as one of the first major film productions to be shot on an iPhone, and The Florida Project garnered a Academy Award nomination for Willem Dafoe, and he has a very specific style. He shoots pretty much a lot of his stuff in a realistic setting, and he uses he's very realistic. He focuses mainly on realism, and he achieves this by also doing a lot of street casting, which is when you hire non-actors to play roles in your movies, mainly roles that the people who he casts actually represent in reality. And Anora is sort of like a hybridization of that. Like, he has street casting, you can tell, in certain characters and how they act, and then you have like actual actors in there, especially stuff that happens later on in the movie, which I won't spoil because I think everybody should go and watch this movie. But Mikey Madison is amazing in this movie. She is like what Emma Stone did last year in Poor Things. I feel, not to the extent, but I feel she does the exact same thing, where she pours herself into this role and she completely disappears into it, where there was a few moments where I thought she was a street cast. Like, you could have told me that, that Sean Baker walked into a strip club one day, saw Mikey Madison working the club, and he said, "I want to make a movie about you." That's how good she is. I think she completely embodies the role that she plays, and it's a very, I feel like people might hate her or love her, or love to hate her, or hate that they love her. We'll see where people end up lying on this. But yeah, this was a very prominent movie that hit the film festival circuit last year. A lot of people are talking about Oscar buzz, and I can definitely see Mikey Madison getting a Best Actress nomination, and I can see maybe a couple other nominations, but I don't think any other acting nominations. I see this getting nominated for Best Screenplay, Best Picture, and possibly Best Director. Maybe even a Best Editing in there, because the way it's edited is like pristine. I love it. You feel, I was telling my coworker about this. It's basically Uncut Gems meets Pretty Woman. That's the best way I can describe it. There's tension, there's comedy, there's like, it's just a wild ride, and it gets even crazier in the second act. Second and third act, I should say. But yeah, so if it's playing anywhere near you, I know it's in limited release right now, but if it's playing anywhere near you at all, definitely give it a watch. Watch it in theaters for sure. I don't know where it's going to come out on streaming, but if it does come out on streaming and you didn't get a chance, it wasn't playing anywhere near you, watch it when it comes out on streaming. So the next bit of The next thing I want to review is Agatha All Along. Now, this was a show that is a spin-off of WandaVision, and it stars Catherine Hahn and Joe Locke and Aubrey Plaza as well. Although I will say Aubrey Plaza is not in it as much as a lot of people think she was going to be, but when she's in it, she steals the scenery. I really did like the show. I ended up liking it, and I was a little hesitant to watch it because the last Disney Marvel Disney Plus show that came out, which was Secret Invasion, I think it was Secret Invasion, I ended up quitting after one episode. I just couldn't do it. From what I hear from a lot of people, that was actually a pretty smart decision because it didn't end very well. But I really, really did enjoy Agatha All Along, and it's no wonder. It's just from the same people that created WandaVision. Jack Schaefer showran this one, and I believe she showran Agatha or WandaVision as well. And what I liked about this show was that it pretty much, it didn't tell the exact same story as WandaVision, but it had the bones of WandaVision in there. And I think that's what I ended up liking about it. Joe Locke was amazing as Billy Kaplan / Wiccan, and I thought his performance was pretty well done. And also Catherine Hahn just killed it as Agatha again. And it's not just, she has a very layered story, especially when you find out what happens in the end. But I just really enjoyed this movie. TV show. But some of my negatives are it does fall victim to the typical Disney Plus structure, which I'm starting to get a little tired of, to be honest with you. And it's sort of, you can see that they're just sort of taking the same structure of WandaVision and they're trying to apply it to everything else, and it's not working. And what I mean by that is, with WandaVision, it started the first couple episodes in this television show that Wanda had created, and it introduced the mystery. Then by the third episode, they introduced a little bit more mystery, and each episode kind of added to the mystery of like, whoa, what's going on in this town? Like, why is everybody in a television show? Like, is Wanda doing it? Is somebody hijacking a spell Wanda did that to bring Vision back to kind of process her grief? Like, it really did make you ask the questions, like, what's going on? And then it had an entire flashback episode, which pretty much explained everything that happened. And it worked only because it was set in a format that was similar to other TV shows of the past, which is what WandaVision was trying to do. It was trying to emulate television styles. Old TV shows in the past used to have episodes that were called clip show episodes, where basically, to conserve the budget, they would just have a loose narrative, and it would be an excuse to replay old clips from previous seasons. They kind of do that with WandaVision, not replaying previous clips, obviously, but just retelling moments from the MCU, but from Wanda's perspective, like moments in her past. And it made sense. And then when it all culminated, I can't say the word. I don't know why. I just can't say it. When it all came together to explain how she created the hex and why it happened, it was amazing. But Disney Plus has been trying to emulate that structure in all their other shows, essentially. Even like there's some of their Star Wars shows and most of their Disney Plus shows, where you have the mysteries set up, and then you start adding to the mystery, and then you have an entire episode, which is usually like either the second to the last or third to the last episode of the season, where they explain the mystery, but all they're really doing is just telling the same story, but from a different point of view. Moon Knight was a little bit different because Moon Knight did tell the story from a different perspective, but it made sense in the terms of that story. But like the most egregious and the most like ire inspiring uh a TV show to do this was The Acolyte that just came out. They had 2 episodes that were like this, and what it does is it kills the pace of the show, because you're expecting the answers to progress the story, but the problem is it progresses the story, but it progresses the story in another week. So you're left with like for lack of a better term, you're left with narrative blue balls. Like it's essentially pausing the story to tell you the story you've already seen from a different perspective, and then instead of progressing the story further, you gotta wait another week to progress the story, and it's just infuriating. Agatha All Along did that, but they did it early on in the season. They did it, I believe, in the 4th or 5th episode. I want to say it was the 5th episode, and they did progress it a little bit more than other shows have. Like they had another additional 5 minutes, so I forgive Agatha All Along for doing it, but I still think it kind of killed the momentum a little bit. And then the final episode of Agatha All Along, you think they're going to do that again, but really it just tells the story of Agatha and her son Nicholas Scratch. And this is where Kathryn Hahn shines the most. This was probably her best episode of the entire series, because she portrays a vulnerability that you rarely see from her, unless she's done a few dramatic roles, but she's mostly known for her comedy, and she's hilarious in this show too. But when she's able to shine dramatically, I think it just really emphasizes that we sleep on Kathryn Hahn a lot. And yeah, she knocked it out of the park, like especially in the last episode. I didn't like the last couple minutes of the episode, because I feel it was a studio note. Like you can how you can watch something, you can just kind of feel studio note. It felt like they needed to end it in a way that would leave the door open for a season 2. And yeah, I just didn't end up liking that final few moments of the episode. But overall, the show was good. I think if they get a season 2, it's a well-warranted season 2, and they can definitely progress the story further. And I hope that they kind of move away from the Disney Plus structure of things and the WandaVision structure of things. So we'll see what's to come of it. So what did you guys think of Agatha All Along? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Have you completely given up on Disney Plus like most people have? Let me know down in the comments below. So that's going to do it for the first episode of the weekly roundup. Did I say weekly roundup or weekly wrap up? I'm still deciding on the name. I don't know which one sounds better. Weekly wrap up, probably alliteration. We're going to call this the weekly wrap up. I'm trying to get my foot back in the water on this. Like, I love talking about movies and TV shows with my coworkers and my friends, and I just want to be able to do this on this platform as well. So I hope you guys like what I had to say. I know I can be tangent-y most of the time, and I can just run off on things. So I'm trying to get better. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them down below. And I've been Mike, and this is Mike's Movie Madness. Take care.